of the internet, my name is Omesh. Welcome to part 2 of this series. Now, damn, I should stop putting my hat over my cigarettes. Anyways, let's continue on with the series. Last time that we left off, Yugoslavia was not in the best place, you might say. Internally, externally, metaphorically, religiously, and all the such. But maybe these next couple of years may be a turning point for Yugoslavia. Spoilers. No. Join me today as I discuss to you about Yugoslavia during World War II and also the partisan uprising. So, Yugoslavia, 1938. Nothing's currently happening. Well, the rise of Hitler was happening during this period of time. Austria is being annexed, and Czechoslovakia being partitioned. So, 1938, Yugoslavia. Nothing's happening, right? Well, the rise of Hitler is happening currently, and Hitler has been annexing a lot of places. Firstly, he remilitarized the Rhineland, which was militarized. Did they expect them to actually obey those rules, at all? Nonetheless, he destroyed the Treaty of Versailles, he just totally forfeited it. He remilitarized the Rhineland, he went on to annex Austria. The reason behind the annexation actually was quite interesting. You should go watch a detailed analysis of the video of why Germany has to annex nations to keep its economy afloat. That's during World War II. And Nazi Germany. Czechoslovakia was being partitioned, even though it was being pleading for help. And even when Soviets were volunteering to go send their army to protect Czechoslovakia, Poland, France, Britain, and all other nations declined. They said that to avoid war we should be lenient. So they appeased the Germans. By appeasement, they just wanted to surrender this last bit of territory which nobody really cared about. And Czechoslovakia was then divided. Slovakia was turned into a puppet state and Hungary got a little portion of their land. Now, Yugoslavia is in some deep, deep trouble. Because as fascism was on the rise in Germany, some in Yugoslavia, in Croatia specifically, have sought out to revolt against the kingdom, to create their own independent state of Croatia, the Ustashi, as we know them today. They were a far right-winging Nazi collaborators that believed themselves that they are not Slavs, that Croats are descendants of the Gothic tribe. They are German by blood and by race. Now, their whole point and all desire was total annihilation and destruction of the Serbian people and the Muslims that lived in their, quote, independent state of Croatia. This was not realized when Yugoslavia still had a standing army and the king still in charge, but after the invasion of Yugoslavia, when Yugoslavia was invaded from the north, the south, the west, the east, from sea and from air, when it was totally destroyed, the Ustashi rose up and grabbed power for themselves. They personally, if you ever read any SS officers' opinions about the Ustashi, whoever had contact with them, you could see them very disdained by them. They were killing other Slavs in the most brutal way possible, which made the SS disgusted. But on the other side, you had the Chetniks, which during World War II was considered until 1943, from 1941 till 43, was considered the legitimate anti-fascist resistance in Yugoslavia. What they mainly did was kill Muslim inhabited places in Sanjak region or Raška. They sometimes butted heads with a couple of other resistance fighters, also tried to deport and kill off Albanians while still being funded by the RAF and the British royal family. Now, the third player, the partisan forces. Smrt fascisti, žive narod. The partisan forces was not comprised by one nationality, by one ethnicity. They were not determined by one greater goal of an ethno-state. What they were determined by was brotherhood and unity. The sole survivors of the war. The ones that wanted a better world. A one where all are equal, regardless of their race, religion, nationality, and all the such. And by them, by their name, it struck fear into Nazi-occupied forces. And they are known as the partisans. They were led by their own general, Josip Broz, or as we like to call him, Tito. He went from many different synonyms. He changed his name quite often to avoid capture during even World War I and afterwards. But World War II is where he made his name. Josip Broz, or as we all like to call him, Tito, was Yugoslavia's hero. I couldn't actually quite explain to you how important he was in that moment, because back then people were illiterate, like extremely illiterate. In our place especially. They didn't know how to read, nor write. They barely understood their own language, let alone any other language. And not only he, but a lot of other communist forces back then, all united together to fight off Nazi Germany, Italian forces, Bulgaria, and Romanian and Hungarian forces. In 1944, they had one of the largest successes of any resistance group. By the end of 1943, on the other hand, they were at then recognized as the sole and only proper resistance forces against Nazism, fascism in Europe. Our nation, here, from Macedonia all the way to Slovenia, was never viewed in a good light. The partisan forces, although superior and greater than any other partisan forces would happen in other places, not to diminish their sacrifices, as they did contribute into the downfall of Nazism. But the great glory that we uphold of our grandfathers and our ancestors is the fact that we have done it ourselves. We liberated our own nation, and we wanted our nation to thrive via brotherhood and unity, via illiteracy to becoming one of the most literate nations on the whole planet. From being considered as a nothing backwater nation to be respected globally and throughout. With that ambition, with that goal, we set on forward, and not only have we destroyed our enemies, but we have completed every single goal that we've set on ourselves, so that eventually our children would never know the sacrifices that they have had. Yugoslavia in 1945 was victorious. A new regime was set in place. Not a pro-Western one, not a pro-Eastern one, but independent, with its own complications, which I will be touching up on the next part of this series. If you want to go and read and study or want to listen more about this period of time of Yugoslavia, I would highly recommend watching another YouTube channel by the name of Balkan Odyssey. He's a good friend of mine and he goes well in depth into this. His video and content production is phenomenal, and I believe he could do a much better job than me for this particular period of time. But I'm not here to educate you of everything. I'm here to give you a base foundation. I'm here to give you motivation so that you eventually would go and study this part of history for yourself, regardless if you're part of Yugoslavia or not. It is filled with grief, anguish, it's filled with hatred and anger, but at the same time of love and hope and compassion. But that'll be it for today. Thank you for joining me for part 2 of this series. In part 3, I will be talking about Yugoslavia between 1946 all the way till Tito's death.